Assalamu alaikum dear students. In the last lecture of mechanical properties of fluid, we have studied the concept of viscosity. In the last lecture, we have studied that viscosity, just like a force of friction in case of a solid, when we are dealing with the liquid, force of friction that will come into account in case of a liquid is called as viscosity. We all know that liquid is propagating in the form of a different layers. When we assume such a layers, you will find that there exists a friction or a viscous drag between different layers of a liquid, which opposes the relative motion of a liquid. So this property is called as viscosity. We have already studied it, and it is defined as it is a property of a fluid by virtue of which the relative motion between the different layers of fluid experience a dragging force. So we have studied the concept of viscosity and the term velocity gradient. Also studied here. Velocity gradient is nothing but the rate of change of velocity with distance dx measured from the stationary layer is called as velocity gradient, which is nothing but dv by dx. Then we have studied the formula of coefficient of viscosity as well. So in the last lecture we had considered the concept of viscosity. Today what we will do, we will observe one phenomena over here and we will form one law over here. Today we have to study Stokes' law. Let's see what is Stokes' law. If any object, just consider a spherical object. Here we have taken one spherical object and there is a container which is filled with a fluid which is viscous in nature. Remember that I had given you the best example of a viscous liquid is glycerine or honey. In the last lecture we had considered this viscous fluid. So whenever a small spherical object having a radius r, if it is moving inside a viscous liquid, suppose it is a spherical object and it is moving inside a viscous liquid, then on which factor obviously it is going to experience a viscous force inside a viscous fluid. Viscous force, we have studied that it is a friction exerted by the fluid layers. Obviously these fluid layers are going to oppose the motion of this sphere. So suppose this sphere is moving in a downward direction. So this downward direction is the direction of velocity of a sphere. What will happen as the layers of a liquid or a viscous liquid, they are going to oppose the motion of this sphere. So this sphere is going to experience a viscous force or dragging force. That dragging force, obviously it is going to be directed in the opposite direction to that of the direction of velocity, because this effect of this force is to oppose the motion of this sphere. So on which factor it is going to depend? If we take a small sphere, suppose the sphere is very small, then obviously small sphere is going to experience a less amount of viscous force. If the radius of a sphere is not very large, then the force experience, dragging force experienced by the sphere will be very less. Similarly, it also depends on the velocity of this object or velocity of this sphere. Greater the velocity with which the sphere is moving, greater would be the opposition exerted by the liquid layer. It is a matter of fact. And it is also depends on the nature of a fluid, how much viscous the fluid is. If we take the two example, when we throw this sphere inside a glycerine, which is quite thick, which is quite viscous, or you can throw this sphere inside a cough syrup, which is less viscous as compared to glycerine or honey. So obviously viscous drag will be more in case of honey or in case of glycerine as compared to the cough syrup, because it is highly viscous as compared to the cough syrup. So it also depends on the coefficient of viscosity. So based on these observations, German scientist Stokes has formulated one law which is based on this observation only, that the viscous force is denoted by Fv. The viscous force, or you can say dragging force, acting on a small sphere falling through a viscous medium is directly proportional to the radius of the sphere. As I told you that greater the radius of the sphere, greater would be the viscous force experienced by that sphere. So it is directly proportional to the radius of the sphere, and it is directly proportional to the velocity of the sphere through the fluid, and it is also directly proportional to the coefficient of viscosity, how much viscous the fluid is. So here we can write down these three things in the form of equation, that this viscous drag is found to be directly proportional to the coefficient of viscosity. Eta is the coefficient of viscosity here, V is the velocity of the sphere, and R is the radius of the sphere. And in a laboratory, when this, obviously when you remove this proportionality sign, you need to write one constant here. Here the constant is already calculated, and that calculated constant comes out to be equal to 6 pi. And the rest of the thing will remain as it is, eta V into R. So this 6 pi is called as empirical constant, means it is already calculated in the lab. Its value is already determined. It is 6 pi. So this is what Stokes' law. It is based on the observation when we move a sphere inside a viscous liquid. We will observe few things, that the viscous dragging force is depending on the radius of the sphere. Greater the radius of the sphere, greater would be the viscous drag. It is also depends on the velocity of the sphere. Greater the velocity of the sphere, greater would be the opposition experienced by the sphere from the liquid layer. And it also depends on the viscosity, coefficient of viscosity here. So all the things are being formulated and put in one equation. Fv is equal to 6 pi eta Vr. Remember that this equation gives us the viscous drag force acting on the object when it is moving through the fluid, viscous fluid. Now the next one that we have to study is terminal velocity. The name terminal means what? You can say it is a final velocity. Terminal means final. So final velocity, what does it means? You might have observed few things before studying the concept of terminal velocity. Let us do one observation. You might have done this observation before. Students, you might have observed one thing. When any object is thrown from a certain height, suppose this is a ground level and this object is thrown from a certain height, you will find that as it moves down, its velocity goes on increasing. You might have observed this thing. Similarly, you might have observed the raindrops which are falling from the cloud, and they are also moving with the high velocity. But what happened? Do we experience the velocity of these raindrops when they fall on us? No. We don't feel any velocity, or very low velocity we can feel. Here we can say here that So it means what? Though they are falling from a very high height, but when they falls to the surface of the earth, when they falls to the any individual, its velocity will be very smooth, you can say. We are not going to experience any kind of massive force of this raindrop as they are fallen from a certain height. What does it means? They are also moving through a fluid. These raindrops are also moving through a fluid which are called as gases. So when they are moving, why we don't experience a very high amount of velocity of these raindrops? Or here we can say that all these raindrops are, we see that the things which we observe over here, all the raindrops are moving with the constant velocity, almost constant velocity we experience. What does this constant velocity means? This constant velocity is called as terminal velocity, final velocity achieved by this raindrops while moving from a certain height. And when they are moving, when they are coming down slow, their velocity goes on increasing, but at a stage is reached where the velocity of this raindrop becomes constant and very smoothly they fall on us. This velocity which is achieved by this raindrop is called as terminal velocity. Now we are not going to do our experiment on the raindrop. Let us consider the same example. We will take one sphere and we are going to move this sphere inside a fluid which is viscous. Before that, let us understand one more concept, one force called as buoyant force. You might have observed that force. I'll give you an example. Suppose there is a container. It is filled with the water. Then take one object. Let us consider one object which is of any shape, and density of this object is quite low as compared to density of water. And what you will do is try to push this object inside a liquid, inside the water. Let's push it. When we push it with the help of our finger, we will find that it will move down. Obviously, because we have applied force, so this object is going to move in a downward direction because the force is still there. We have not removed our finger, but once it reaches to a certain level below, what you will do is remove your finger, remove the force on it which we have applied. What we are going to observe, as soon as we remove the force which we had applied to it, this object is going to move in an upward direction. Immediately this object is going to move on the surface of a water. What does it mean? The water is applying, or this sphere is experiencing the upward force whenever the applied force is zero. When our applied force is zero over here, we have removed our finger, we have not applied any force over here. What will happen? The ball or the sphere is going to move in an upward direction. This force which is directed in upward direction and applied by the liquid, this force is applied by the liquid. This force is called as buoyant force and is also called as upthrust. And this buoyant force is depending on the density of a liquid. If sigma is the density of a liquid, greater the density of a liquid, greater would be the upthrust experienced by this object. It also depends on the radius of the object. Greater the radius of the object, greater the object, greater would be the upthrust experienced by this object. So Hope you all have understood the buoyant force. Now let's talk about the terminal velocity. Again, let us consider the same example. Buoyant force is understood. Buoyant force is also called as upthrust force. Here what we have taken one viscous fluid and one container which is filled with a viscous fluid, which is not shown. It is assumed that the entire container is filled with a viscous fluid. Now this spherical ball, which is having a radius say small r, it is moving inside this viscous fluid. It is moving with the velocity v, say. So what are the forces experienced by this spherical object? The very first force that will come into our mind is the downward force acting on the object, which is nothing but the force due to gravity mg. It is directed in a downward direction. Similarly, as we all know that this is the sphere, it is moving inside a viscous fluid, so it will experience a viscous drag. As the object is moving in a downward direction, then the viscous drag will be directed in upward direction. So let Fv is the viscous dragging force which is directed in upward direction here. And see, along with this viscous drag, the object is also going to experience buoyant force or the upthrust force. So in the upward direction there are two forces, viscous drag as well as upthrust force. And remember that this viscous dragging force, as initially when this object is falling from this height, initially its velocity goes on increasing. So as the velocity goes on increasing, the viscous dragging force also goes on increasing, as it is directly proportional to the velocity. So let us calculate the net force acting on this object. Net force acting on the object is, let F net is equal to, net means total force. Total force is nothing but the sum of upward forces and the downward force. So total upward force plus total downward force is the total force acting on the object. Upward force plus downward force. What are the upward forces? Upward force is nothing but Fv and Fu. So Fu plus Fv. And after that, since the gravitational force is directed in a downward direction, minus mg, because it will be negative. So this is the total force or net force acting on the spherical object when it is moving through the viscous fluid. So initially velocity of the sphere goes on increasing. You will come to know that this viscous force also goes on increasing. A stage will reach, when it comes over here, suppose a stage will reach when the viscous dragging force, total upward force will be high enough to balance the gravitational force over here. And the net force acting on the object at this stage will be 0. And after it, the velocity of the sphere is not going to increase. It will remain constant. Once it attains the constant velocity, this sphere will flow very smoothly at this particular stage. So this constant velocity achieved by the sphere when the net force acting on it is 0, or when the total upward force is balanced by the downward force, this constant velocity is called as terminal velocity. So let us see how it is defined. The constant velocity achieved by the object moving through a fluid when the net force acting on it is 0. It's so simple. Now let us derive the formula for it as well. Let's go for the derivation of terminal velocity here. Derivation of terminal velocity, we are going to derive it. Here we had taken one sphere, upward forces. What are the, it is, since it is moving through the viscous fluid, upward force will be viscous drag. Another upward force is buoyant force or upthrust force, it is Fu. And the downward force is only one force, which is nothing but the mg, gravitational force. So in an equilibrium, what will happen? Total downward forces will be exactly equal to total upward forces. So downward force is equal to upward force. Before that, let rho is the density of sphere and let sigma is the density of a fluid and let small r is the radius of the sphere. Let eta be the coefficient of viscosity. Let v is the velocity of the sphere which is moving inside a viscous liquid. So downward force, we all know that the downward force is mg is equal to, what are the two upward forces? Fu plus Fv. Upthrust or buoyant force, and this is the dragging force. So mg is equal to, upthrust force is given by the formula. Here, keep it as it is first. Fu. What is Fv from the Stokes law? We all know that it is 6 pi eta Rv from Stokes law. Just now we have studied Stokes law. We all know that we can write this mass in terms of density, as we all know that mass is nothing but density into volume. And what is volume of the sphere? It is 4 by 3 pi r cube. So mass can be written as volume into density. So at the place of small m, we can write it as 4 by 3 pi r cube into rho is equal to, upthrust force is, as it is depending on the volume of the sphere, so we are going to write it as 4 by 3 pi r cube into density. We all know that force is nothing but mass into gravitational acceleration. So mass, here what density, which density is going to come? Density of a liquid into gravitational acceleration. This is also mass into gravitational acceleration, and this is also mass into gravitational acceleration. So 4 by 3 pi r cube rho into g is the downward force. 4 by 3 pi r cube sigma into g is the upward force or upthrust force, or you can say buoyant force, plus 6 pi eta r into v. Now we'll have to find out the formula for v now. So keep this term here only, taking this term to that side, we'll be getting 6 pi eta r into v is equal to 4 by 3 pi r cube rho into g minus 4 by 3 pi r cube sigma into g. So what, taking common terms aside, 4 by 3 is common over here, pi is common, r cube is also common, and g is common. and what will remain in the bracket is rho minus sigma. What is rho? Rho is the density of the sphere and sigma is the density of a viscous fluid, is equal to 6 pi eta r into V. Now we will have to find out the formula for V, taking rest of the term here at this side, and here you can cancel few term. Pi will get cancelled, 1 power of the r over here will be cancelled, it will become r square. So what will remain over here? V, taking remaining term, and here also we can cancel 2 2s are 4, 2 3s are 6. When this 3 come over here, it will become 2 by 9, and 2 by 9 r square g rho minus sigma upon eta. This is the final expression for the terminal velocity. So in this way, terminal velocity of the object can be derived. Similarly, we can write this equation in terms of eta. We can write this eta as well. Eta and velocity, they can be interchanged over here. Eta will be written as 2 by 9 r square g rho minus sigma upon V. This is the formula for the coefficient of viscosity. So this is the simple derivation for the terminal velocity. So today we have studied about the Stokes law and terminal velocity. Here our topic, mechanical properties of fluid, has been ended. So hope you'll have understood the entire topic. Thank you.